This is episode 3 covering shot calling. Those who are new to the show and not seen an episode of ours yet, we are Team Shuriken. We are a Plat Elo team. We do a talk show once a week to go over topics about just generalizing team concepts. So whether or not you are brand new and you're starting your own team, or you're trying to join a team, or you want to go over the fundamentals as far as what needs to be done within the team setting to help you improve, this is what this talk show is about. Not to say we aren't experts ourselves or anything. We're obviously a team. We're growing as we go along. But this show is to help you guys understand what we've been through, give you guys some insight, some stuff we have done that maybe have worked, hasn't worked, pass on our successes and our failures so you guys can grow yourselves to either start up your own team and be successful right out of the gate, or you can have, if you already have a team, to help you guys improve and to increase your own success. So I myself, I am Pandemonium, the manager, the one that created Team Shuriken, and I am also the captain slash top laner for the team. Here with me today we have...
I'm Admitsum. I'm the newest addition to Shuriken Gaming, playing support.
And then I'm Rufio, mid laner. I've been with the team for a month or so now.
Alright, so we bring our members. That way you guys, like, I myself the captain, so I come from the management aspect, which is very helpful, especially when we do episodes talking about the foundation of what created the team. So I give you guys some insight as far as what goes behind the scenes is me getting the team started or nudging in a direction. And then we bring players along so they can give feedback. If I've done something like terrible, they can voice it and you guys can learn, like, hey, not to do this as captain. But also too, you know, if they like certain directions that we go as a team, they can also voice their opinions. So that's why we try to get the leader of the team as long as with the people that are within the team. So we have both sides of the spectrum here, which is really good. So as again, episode 3 is shot calling. We are going to move on to our first question. First question is, should one individual on the team be assigned the shot caller? And we'll let admin take it away here on this first question.
Yeah, sure. So shot calling. Yeah, should one person be a shot caller? Personally, I think it's the whole team's job to call out the plays. Because, like, I'm in bot lane, right? I'll see all the plays that we can make in bot lane. I'm not necessarily watching top or mid. I think it's more on the rest of the team to find out, like, where they are, what they can do. It's really a team effort, I find.
Rufio, got anything to add?
Yeah, as far as that goes, it's I agree with that, man. It's more of a team thing. I don't think it should be one individual, just because there's so much more information from everyone else, and the one person might be thinking, hey, this is a mid turret, and the other 2 or 3 might be calling for a Baron, and the Baron may be the right play. So putting 100% faith in one person, I feel like, is going to lead to more mistakes than taking information from everyone else.
Okay, yeah, to elaborate what you guys said, I completely agree with you. I think we're all in agreement here as far as one individual shouldn't have the pressure, the responsibility to call out every single individual thing. It's everybody's responsibility to shot call and see what they say on the map. Which that's my firm belief, is a lot of times shot calling is done before the game, like the big initial plan as far as what you initially want to do throughout the game, like should we prioritize this objective over this objective. And within the game, a lot of shot calling comes down to calling off people's positioning, their cooldowns, their sums, just throwing information out there, feeding as much information as possible. So as soon as my top lane flash, and if I say, hey, our flash is down, our mid laner Rufio here, he knows, like, hey, if I had a roam, if I push this guy in, if I got a roam from either direction, more likely I'll probably roam top lane, because the likelihood of success is even greater because we called out that and established that top lane doesn't have a flash. So it's definitely shouldn't be too much pressure on one person. And there's a difference between being a leader in game. The difference between, like, you can be a leader in game, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're a shot caller, right? Everybody can have their, like, glory moments of leaders. So if you guys have the Rift Arrow and Rift Arrow is running out, And even if you're not the one with the rift tail, you see somebody's got the rift tail, and you're like, hey, they're rotating this way. Can we run up here real fast and throw the rift tail in the top lane? One of my favorite things to do is at the top lane. I'll do this even in solo queue, try to get the people if they got rift tail to throw it in the direction that I want. Is that if they got the top lane push and they're all bot lane, and you see a play top side, you're like, hey, let's bypass the minions, throw the rift trail down, take this tower real fast, and back off because they can't respond to it. It's impossible. If they try to respond to it, they're just running up there, then we can turn on a different objective or something. So yeah, there's a difference between being a leader, and I think everybody should have their moments of greatness within the game if
Yeah.
everybody's vocal and
Hmm.
trying to put forth the effort. Closing out the game, than just being a shot caller.
Can I just add, like you mentioned in solo queue, like if you're just playing solo queue without shot calling, you're just relying on your team to hopefully make good plays, right? So I think the way to win the game is be proactive on the map, like understand what you can do and do it. And in a team environment, I think you really just have to all be on the same page is the important part. Is that you all understand kind of what you want to do as a team, like you want to team fight, split push,
Hmm.
etc. Right? And then just work as a team to make the best shot call for depending on the scenario.
So what are your guys' thoughts on like LCS? So like TSM for example, where they say like they need a designated shot caller. Like what do you think? Because we're in agreement that like it's a team effort and it should be one individual, the fresh individual. Why do you think like LCS teams stress to have like this one specific shot caller within their team more so than like our opinion is everybody shot calls?
I feel like because they're a lot more refined. They're all, challenger master players, things like that. So they have, 100% faith in that person, that that person is going to make the right call because of, maybe playing the game longer or just because of the higher rank that they are. Um, and be, competitive play is a lot different compared to like lower team play and solo queue. So I think maybe just in competitive play, because that each player has so much knowledge that that's a viable thing to do, is to
I think
have one person shot call.
yeah, I think once you get to that level too, having everyone like try to make their own plays kind of just turns into mayhem. So if you have one person like calling the shot, like okay, let's go straight to Baron right now, instead of just like okay, the next person being like, well, what if we do Dragon instead? Or I feel like it would just get a lot more mixed up at that level because um, like it's such a high level of play. It there's I think you just want to have the one set idea, and having one person do that kind of keeps it all in one spot.
Okay, I think it's pretty cool too with LCS though, since like we're talking about it. I think the biggest difference in LCS and like with us, like we have a lot more options because in Platinum there's like 100,000 players, Platinum plus, whereas if you're in a Challenger, you might only have like 100 people to choose from, so like
Yeah,
your availability is not there. So I think LCS like they try to go off of more skill and knowledge base more so than shot calling. That's why I think like LCS. If I was a LCS recruiter, that's what I would do. I would be like, okay, there's three things that player has. It's either mechanics, it's either shot calling, and it's game knowledge. And a lot of people has got mechanics and game knowledge, right? That's where most of them have it. And that's the reason why they're Challenger
yeah,
Plus and the LCS. Um, and they have to sacrifice them not being vocal. So if this guy's like hot shit, like Biofrost, like he was brand new to TSM, right? Even though he's not a very vocal person, that's the reason why they ultimately kicked him out. From my feedback, what Reggie said during interviews and everything, they wanted more somebody that's more of the shot caller and the supportive role. Um, but you got somebody like that where they're very good mechanically. They got the game knowledge. They know people's cooldowns and stuff like that. They're willing to sacrifice the shot caller because this guy's not very vocal just because they're so limited on options compared to like us. Like if somebody created a team within our elo, they have so many options. They can pick the like the 3 package deal with an R elo. Not that they
Yeah,
say
the
they're the
trio.
best at those, but because we're still in the ply elo, but
Yeah,
we have more options than what somebody else does if you're purely a challenger team. And somebody like Afro Moon, right? Like that guy didn't like play. I don't think he played that well mechanically this season, but he's still a great shot caller. The guy's very knowledgeable in the game, and he has the shot calling capability. So he might not be like as mechanically gifted as Biofrost, but he because of his shot calling, that gives him still yet 2 out of the 3 options there as far as why I would grade people in the LCS or a player just in general. It's very hard to find a package deal with all 3, so you gotta give up something. So if you have all these other people that got the other 2, and you don't have anybody with that shot calling, or they're not very vocal in the team, then it kind of struggles. And I think that's the difference with LCS is with us, like when you create for a lower elo within shot calling, one person shouldn't be the designated shot caller, like we said. It should be a team effort. But that's just because we're not so advanced mechanically that we can just give up that option. We have to try to be good at all 3.
yeah. I think like someone like High in particular, he's like an amazing shot caller, and they kept him on the scene for such a long time. And like you could tell his mechanics weren't up to par, but they still managed to make it work as a team because he was just so much better at shot calling than everybody else. And I feel like a lot of teams are kind of picking up on that and having one designated shot caller who focus more on the shot calling and their mechanics, and lets everybody else focus on their mechanics too, right?
hmm but yeah, so I guess we can agree that LCS team would be a little bit different, but
It's
overall,
very different.
yeah,
Yeah,
for us, everybody should be shot calling. We don't lack the knowledge what LCS player does. So if we designated like the jungler to be shot caller or you admit to be shot caller, you don't have the knowledge of an LCS player to be able
yeah, no.
to be able to call
Well,
off stuff as efficiently as what they would be able to, because
yeah,
they're kind of like experts or at least semi-experts in every role, practicing the off time and trying to understand every
yeah.
single part of the game. Um, but yeah, so moving on to our second question, I think we tied it a little bit. But is there a role or roles that should be designated the shot callers of the team?
So as far as roles being assigned shot callers, it's safe to assume that like jungle and support would be the best ones because they're the ones that kind of I guess I could say have like the free time for it, or they don't
Yeah,
have like anything else that they really have to do.
yeah. No, I completely agree with that. Yeah,
So
like,
yeah,
sorry.
no, I was just gonna say. So I can see in some instances like where mid or top could be it, but that's really dependent on the situation. Like if mid gets a good stun or if top gets like a great ulti off and then they call to go in, things like that. But as far as like if we were LCS and we had to like pick one, I'd say it would be the support.
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of the support role. Well, I also think like especially what you said about jungle and support is you don't have to spend that much time doing all the micro mechanics like CSing. So you do have the extra time to just look at the map and see all like the movements of or just track the enemy jungler if you can, and
Hmm.
a lot like that. But if it comes down to like making the call that I'm gonna push mid lane and then I can roam, that's more of the mid laner's call. So I still believe that it's not any roles, any like it's not necessarily the support or the jungler's role to call for the mid lane to roam, but I think it's a lot more on the individual and what they need for their lane to succeed or just get enough gold to succeed.
All right, I would say yes and no just to the general question overall. As far as being assigned like lane shot calling, I think certain lanes or positions have more responsibility to make plays with the information provided. So to give an example, if every lane calls out their lane status and calls down their summoner spells and where vision's at and what's the pressure and what's the best optimal way to gank within the lane, if all 3 lanes are calling out, which all lanes should, it's up to the jungler to make the ultimate decision. He's like more or less the shot caller in that situation where like, okay, I'm gonna go gank here because that's where my jungle route's going, or we need to snowball this person, so I'm going to gank this, or we're going to pressure the guy with the global ult, so I'm going to gank this lane more. But yeah, everybody feeds information in, so as to the smallest degree, everybody is shot calling. But ultimately, like what information is being fed, I think jungle and support has the most opportunities
Yeah.
to make plays, just because the jungle is the guy all guy out. Obviously, it's his responsibility to decide where he wants to put pressure on the map. And also too with support, like you have the option to like roam and do other things. Whereas if I teleport down in bot lane, it's very hard for that lane to be covered. Whereas if you roam mid, at least you got somebody covering the lane, so you got a little bit more freedom than like other lanes do when they roam. Just because we have to like ultimately make this factor. If I'm staying here, is it worth me losing my tower over, or do I have enough time to do this without losing my tower? You know. But yeah, so everybody can shot call, but ultimately I think support and jungle, maybe more side on jungle side, or at least early game, has the ultimate factor of what can be done. And then late game, it's more about, I guess, where your initiations are, like who has the go button in your comp. So are you relying on like the Ashe ulti to make the pick, or do you have like a Rammus or a Maokai or a Malphite that's going to do the engaging? And that right there is like shot calling in team fight. So I guess the role can switch depending on what stage of the game you're in. Who has like the main lead on the shot calling? So I guess overall, like, you know, it's not a specific position, but certain positions have responsibilities with each individual aspect of the game, depending on where you're at. Depends on what's being called out and what the team needs to do.
Yeah.
On to the third question. Should you force a player or role to be a shot caller? Me personally, I think as a captain standpoint, creating a team, this should be considered during your recruitment process. So if you, for example, if I were to recruit a bot lane, and let's say like, because this is what's happening to Team Shuriken as far as with my recruitment before I recruited admin. Um, we have e-girls. Everybody knows e-girls. Watch the streams. E-girls is like really fucking advanced mechanically, awesome mechanically. But he's kind of quiet when it comes to the laning phase, as far as calling out teleport plays, vision, and roaming, and you know the shot calling aspect. So when I started recruiting for the support player, I know in my head I need somebody that's vocal, even if they don't have the knowledge yet to know exactly what they need a shot call or what I think they should be saying. I need somebody that's vocal, that I know once you start teaching that individual, he's going to be able to vocalize what needs to be said down there. So for the teleport plays, for the roams, for the vision. Otherwise, if you get two good mechanically advanced players down there, and neither of them are vocal, yeah, they might dominate, but you may not ever be able to carry over that lead into other lanes just because they're not saying anything. So also too, like, even if they do dominate, why wouldn't you dominate a little bit harder by using teleport plays and ganks? That way, like, instead of getting the tower in 15 minutes and then lane swapping later when top lane could be struggling or mid lane could be struggling, you can get that in 8 minutes and drastically impact the rest of the game and snowball your lead. But those are my... I got my dog trying to unplug my shit. But those are my my general thoughts as far as forcing a player. It should be considered in recruitment. And if I feel like all player needs to improve on it, so it shouldn't be like I say, like, I recruit this player, but it doesn't mean that I should let up on e-girls to say, okay, you can be quiet now, don't ever say anything, or focus on your farm.
Yeah.
It's still a team effort into the game. And that way one player is not at fault if information is not being presented in a role, you know, or in a certain area of the map, like top side of the map. Shouldn't be just jungler's job to say information. So even if I recruit a vocal jungler, me and Rufio still have to communicate what's going on up there so he can make the best decisions possible within his roams and ganks. But what are your guys' thoughts on it?
Personally, I think you can't really force any player to do that. It's like I'd compare it to forcing someone to play a position that they don't want to play, like putting your top laner in bot lane. Like it's something that it's kind of a mechanic if you think about it, but it's really something that you got to work on, and if you don't have it, you can't really just force someone to start making plays or calling out plays if they can. Um, but then again, I also think that every player on your team should be able to uh, come up with a certain type of call that they need really. Like you can't just sit in lane getting bullied and poked out without saying like I need help bot lane, right? Like I need a gank. I need to release some pressure here. And I really don't think you need to force anyone to be a shot caller. It's either there or it isn't really.
I think it's really dependent because I've been on teams in the past where everyone's just pretty quiet. They're just quiet players, and I would consider myself a pretty quiet player, and compared to them, I was vocal, so it kind of pushed me into the position where you know I tried to shot call. I kind of agree with Admit. If you're not uncomfortable at all with shot calling, it most likely won't work out. But I think you should attempt to try and practice the shot calling, or if the team's all around quiet and really kind of needing the shot call, to get everything working, someone's got to kind of step up and start doing it.
Yeah. So elaborate what you guys are saying as far as if you have a full team that's quiet, especially so like this is some insight for viewers that are trying to establish a team. If you have a team that you recruited that you really like, everybody, you all get along, but you feel like shot calling is struggling, so and nobody's really vocal, and we're saying you shouldn't force people to shot call, and the route to go about that, because if nobody's vocal, the team's obviously going to fail in the long run as far as a strategical standpoint within game. So my recommendation is if you were a captain of a team like that, on your off time outside practice hours, don't do it during practice hours. Try to bullshit on top of your head what you think should be done, but try to list stuff that needs to be called out. So take every single lane and break it down. If you don't have the information, either talk to the individual laners separately and figure out what they feel within the role that they need to strive for, what they need to accomplish, or Google it and start watching YouTube videos or content about it. So like top lane, right? Like this guy needs to communicate his teleports to the rest of the team, and then he also needs to roam into the jungle every now and then and deep ward if he has his lanes pushed up. And then as he's deep warding, communicate with mid laner to see if a gank is possible. And jungler, like what does he need to communicate? He needs to communicate his pathing and try to compare it to the enemy jungler and be able to communicate, or at least guess if you don't have vision, where the enemy jungler is at. So take time outside of practice hours, list what you feel like each individual laner needs to communicate, and then during your team practice, give that information to the rest of your team and see what they think about your options. What you feel like you should be shot calling, and that way too after the game, don't be like if I had a player and like, hey, I listed these 6 things and you do none of these 6 things. Try to pick out what happened during that game. Like if mid lane was, if you're communicating with a top laner, for example, right? And I'll use top lane just because I'm a top laner. If mid got wrecked and top lane was doing really well, you can be like, hey, top lane, let's work on you communicate with the mid lane and see if you can get roams down there and see if you can carry over that lead into another lane. And just focus on that. Don't be like, these 6 things you missed. Focus on that one individual aspect so he actually has something to take into the next game and he can practice one individual thing rather than practicing 6 things. He freezes up or he doesn't pay attention or he feels like at the appropriate time it's not time to do that specific thing or something. But yeah, focusing on one individual thing would benefit. But you have to make a list as far as what needs to be accomplished. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you don't know exactly what to critique people on within shot calling or communication in your team.
Yeah, that kind of leads into the next question here.
Okay.
What exactly should be shot called in the team setting?
Okay.
That's kind of exactly what you're talking about, I find.
All right. Do you want to elaborate on it then?
Well, if you're talking about exactly what an individual should call out, right? Like talking about TP ganks and stuff like that. I don't know. Do we still have more stuff to talk about for question 3? Because
no, we can move on unless you guys do. Yeah, okay. I'm good. Yeah.
I'm pretty much good for that question. So for the next one, it's like, what should be what should be shot called in a team setting? Um, a lot of things are important. I think the biggest things are like cooldown, summoning spells, ultimate abilities, um, positioning. I think when like your teammates are roaming, like that needs to be called out if you're roaming or the enemy's roaming. And lastly, I'd say objectives. So saying like Baron's up, we need to make a play for this, or we can push down this turret if we all group as five, or even just how we want to take a team fight, right? Like we want to wait for someone to use their ult on the other team, and then we can engage, things like that. But those are the important things I find that need to be called out. Summary spells, ultimate abilities, objectives, and MIIs pretty much positioning.
I could agree with the majority of that. The only other thing that I would kind of throw in there, especially when it gets more towards late game, or if we're looking around at objective like Baron, would be wards. That way we can,
Right.
when someone sweeps with their sweeper, you can have someone go with them, clear as many wards as possible, and then kind of transition that over into hopefully a free objective that the enemy won't have vision on.
Okay. Another thing to add too, because I kind of covered it with individual aspects, what every lane needs to call out, but something you do too is just write down what everybody should be calling out. So as soon as you see the enemy jungler on the map, like make a list. This is what everybody's responsibilities are. So if you see the enemy jungler on the map, say where he's at. When you're in team fights, call out what's the priority target. That way, or if somebody flanks you, call out, hey, this guy's in our back line, so the rest of the team can turn around and fight that individual, and all five of you engulf whoever that is that's attacking, then you can turn into a 5v4. So have the overall perspective of like, this is what everybody's responsibilities are. These are very simple things, and these are like lane specific responsibilities. And I think if you have that list and your team's looking at it every day, I think it'll go a long way. And I think sometimes too, people that aren't used to team environments, they won't call out targets. Like when you're fighting, they're not like, Warwick's on me, or go for Ash, or we just hit him with ulti, go for him. Like they're not used to doing that. Especially like something our team still struggles on. We're in team fights, we forget some. So if we're fighting, there might be two priority targets. They might have a like a I don't know, Alexa and Tristana, for example. Let's say we're like, hey, we'll go for Lux because she's immobile, but Lux still has flash. Maybe it's probably better for us to just jump on the Tristana if we're going to go for one, just because Tristana doesn't have the flash, and the jump is way easier to cancel than a flash. So you gotta players aren't used to being on a team, aren't gonna know those things, even though they might be obvious. You watch LCS, like that's the thing. You watch LCS, and you're like, holy shit, they call out all this crazy shit, and I wish I was on a team like that. Like, in most players, when they make a team, like players don't call out that stuff, and they just give up on those players, and they either disband their own team or go find a new team if they join a team. But you have to strive for like, hey, this is the stuff we're not calling out. Let's try to call out this stuff and improve. Otherwise, there's no way you'll ever join a team that does everything accurately. Even if they do that small thing right, they might never call out teleport plays, and you have a really rough early game. But you have a late game team fight, and it's awesome. Until you actually vocalize what's going wrong in the early game shot calling, you're never going to be able to fix it. But yeah, so I mean, they covered like what exactly to be shot called, and that's the reason I'm not trying to list them out. I'm just trying to go a little more in depth with the captain standpoint of how to improve the team if it's going wrong. I think overall, just not, if you like the player, if you get along really good and they take constructive criticism well, like you shouldn't kick them because they're not vocal or they don't shot call. You should figure out what exactly, like the question says, what exactly needs to be shot called, and try to work towards that. The only thing is that I think would ever be a problem if you play with this guy for months and he never talks at all. Like, that's obviously an issue. But I mean, players like Rufio said, like he feels like he's a quiet player, but he's directly to improve as far as like what needs to be shot called and what needs to be said, within Team Shuriken. So I mean, that's something that I at least I try to strive for in my team, not to give up on players and try to correct whatever deficiencies the team's in, just because that's the goal of Team Shuriken, was a long-lasting team, and so we're still working on it. And then when problems do arise, like we had to, I'm not gonna go in depth, but we had to replace the support player. When problems arise, then you approach those problems. If the problems cannot be fixed over a period of time, that's when you look for an alternative where it's either alternative player, or if you join a team and you feel the team is not to par with your expectations because certain members are not trying to improve their deficiencies, then you bring it up to the captain. If the captain's unwilling to change it, then it's probably time for you to look for a new team. If that, but you have to give it a shot. You have to, even if you're not the captain, you got to try to at least show some leadership or some progression as a member on that team to fix the issues.
Mm.
Go on to the next question. Question 5 we got here. How do you improve shot calling within the team? We just hit this a little bit. Um, but do you guys have anything to add, or a different approach?
No, I'm just gonna add that the greatest thing with that is time. You know, like Rome wasn't built in a day. Like you got to give someone, you know, the extra time and stuff to work on it and improve. And as long as they're trying every game, that's showing improvement to me. You know, if they're taking extra time out of their day to, you know, kind of go over game knowledge with a higher ranked player, I feel like that's also good because that, you know, will lead to better shot calling. So honestly, I just feel like it's a time thing, and like you gotta want to get better at shot calling.
Yeah,
So actively searching out ways to do that.
I think it's an individual thing as well as a team thing, right? Like each person can be good at shot calling, right? But if everyone's calling out different things, it's not good shot calling as a team. So the first part I would say is just understanding the game, having that good game knowledge, and like you can just practice that in solo queue, and you can even practice shot calling in solo queue too with typing out in chat. I mean, maybe not every game, but pings and stuff too. You can definitely practice trying to find the right play, and then as a team in a team environment, kind of just getting to know each other and understanding like each like who's shot calling really, and trying to help them out and I don't know, I guess working together on that. Like you'll kind of just gel as a team over time. That's the second part. Is just putting in a lot of time with your team so that you understand what they're saying. You kind of know what the other person's thinking as well. That'll come with time, and you can really just go from there. It's just a lot of time for the team part.
Right. Apologize, my dog's whining. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but but yeah, don't be afraid also to discuss stuff after the team. I mean after the game. So like I know I'm kind of contradicting what Team Shuriken been doing the past couple of days. We used to be good at it and we're working at it, but discussing after the game and not being heated is definitely a good thing. And understand that this is something we have done good in the past with is when plays are made or games are done and certain things could have been improved, but you never talked about them. So if you had to make a split decision, should we get first dragon or first turret, which is a good example, but we actually did in the past, and we actually went about this the appropriate way back then, which is a good example of what you should do as a team. So what happened was when we were in game, and you guys heard this story in the last episode, I believe. What we did in game was there was a decision: should we get first dragon or first tower? And we could get either one, but what ended up happening was we were trying to argue which objective was better in the game, and we fucked up, and I don't think we got either of them. And so, yeah, so like during the game, like we dropped the whole thing right then and there. We said we're gonna discuss it after the game. We dropped it. We ended up playing, and we still ended up winning that game despite being a hard fought win. So it didn't affect our gameplay within the game because we all knew, we all trusted that we were gonna talk about after the game and not to get aggravated about it within the team, and that goes hand in hand with shot calling. There's issues because we don't have a designated shot caller within our team, but what our strength is and what we strive at is after the game we discuss and figure out, okay guys, which one do we rather have, and we ultimately came to the conclusion that if we had to take one or the other, we're going to get first tower. If that's the option, the waves pushed in, we get first tower first, even if they're coming up and we can't get dragon afterwards. Is what we ultimately decided as a team. We had the conversation. It was kind of a long conversation, like 15 minutes or so. But still, yet every time since then, if we have to do that objective again, as soon as somebody calls out get tower, like if somebody says dragon's up and somebody says get first tower, like because the tower's pushing, nobody will argue that call because everybody knows to go for that first tower. So we've already agreed before the game even started that is what we want to do within our shot calling aspect of what we're trying to focus on the team. Which I think I said it at the beginning of the stream, but that's why I feel like a lot of, or beginning of the show, that's why I feel like a lot of shot calling comes in was it's all done before the game, like the preparation before the game. That is when you get your shot calling situated. Same way when we introduced strong siding. That overall game plan was discussed before the game even started, so that way we're in. Everybody understands where each other's at and what each other's doing before the game even starts. Do you guys have anything else to add before we move on to the next one?
Nope, not on that one.
Just your scenario of having Dragon in first turret, that's when having a designated shot caller can be beneficial, right? Because if you have a split decision between two calls, having to choose stalls your time, and you essentially lose time to do either of those things. So if you're a team, you really need to just pick one call and stick to it as a team. You can't be doing two things at once. And that's also a thing you can improve on as a team, right? Is working on that synergy on which play to go with, like deciding in the moment which is the best play.
Right.
And that comes with time too.
And there's certain times too if the immediate reaction or if it feels right does it. So if you with us you don't have a designated shot caller, and honestly even if we had a designated shot caller, I think there would still be like discretion on certain plays made. So if if your team says let's do Baron and everybody thinks it's a good idea and you start rotating up there and start doing it, if you think it's not a good idea because X, Y reason, say it. But if your team's roaming that direction, roam with them. That way you're sticking together so they don't get ambushed. And if they counter argue and you agree with them, then go ahead and start the Baron. If not, if you guys decide not to do it because what you said, then they'll back off and you roam the top lane, you take that tower, or you just recall and reset if you wasted too much time roaming. Or if you still say it's a bad idea, but they say it's a good idea and all four of them want to do it regardless, because it's better to do a bad play, because bad plays sometimes can be successful if everybody's committed, because the enemy team might fuck up. So go with the flow of the team. It's difficult, and the reason why that play was difficult we were talking about is because like there's like two people want one thing and two people want the other, so it's very difficult. But I mean that's just learning experience as a team. We were a brand new team then. We were still pretty young, and we don't have it all yet now. But that's the guidelines of if the majority of the team is doing something, go with them. And even if you are the shot caller, they picked you to be the designated shot caller. You said do this, but the other four people disagree with you. Don't get a bit head. Just do what the other four says. If it doesn't work out, after the game, say something. Or if it does work out, but you felt like it was still risky, address your concerns and be like, hey guys, I know this was successful, but these are the problems or the concerns I had. What are your guys' thoughts about it? Do you think we'd be able to pull this off consistently or a higher, high percentile, high success rate, or do you think we just got lucky here? So yeah, it's definitely talk about after the game. I think that's the biggest takeaway on how to improve in shot calling. Even if you are a designated shot caller, you can still improve by talking to your teammates, figuring out do they feel like what you called out was good, especially if you're on a team with nobody wants to be vocal and you are forced to be vocal. With Team Shuriken, I don't think that's necessarily the case, but there are some teams out there I know that people aren't vocal. Ask them what their thoughts are with the play. And if and they should be understanding that, hey, we're not vocal and you have to make all the decisions, so we're not going to harp you if it was a bad decision. They should understand that, and I think they will, so don't feel down on yourself if that is the case. But if you make strives to improve, they'll respect you for that regards that, and have more faith in you when you shot call stuff in the future. Or like we talked about, if you call out something and the entire team already agreed upon it, they won't argue that call either within the game. Alright, so our next question. What do you feel like if a team is lacking shot calling, or as a team progress and is getting less vocal? Which we just hit on this, but I guess we can reiterate really shortly what we just said for those who didn't translate the question. If they think they don't think we fully answered the question, really half-assed it, so to speak. It's my go, ain't it? So This is pretty much what I just said. Make sure you talk about it after the game. If you feel like the team is getting less vocal after a while, and this will happen with any team. There are times with Team Shuriken we were less vocal that week, or we felt like people weren't really playing that serious, or people weren't into it. It's gonna happen. The biggest thing is don't get discouraged. The best thing you can do is between games say, hey, I feel like we're not doing this stuff, so let's try to work on it next game, and don't be hard on them just because. And there'll be days where you will be less vocal because of stuff that's going on in real life, or you just you're tired or whatever else. So just bringing up the concerns and say this is what we're not doing right. Ultimately, we'll decide whether or not if the team was not vocal and had a bad practice. If you address, hey guys, like this is the stuff we done wrong. If we just fix this stuff, we'll do a lot better tomorrow. And tomorrow comes around, they'll keep that in mind, and you'll have a great practice. If nothing's being said, everybody will just have that same mentality moving into the next week or the next day, and you'll have the exact same practice you just did that day.
So just kind of building off that. Yeah, it's super important to say stuff after game to help, try and keep it vocal as well. But I think also a little bit in the middle of the game helps, like when we, as far as like communicating in game, I guess if everybody's becoming less vocal in game, I don't think it hurts to, kind of ask like bot lane, are there sums up? Is it warded? Things like that. Trying to get other people to be more active in like shot calling conversation or just giving more info out during the game.
Yeah,
So I think.
Oh,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I think there's like two things you can do about that. I think you can like work on it in game, but if there's too many things going on in the game, I think you can, as a team afterwards, get together and be like, okay, this play happened. What do you think we could have done better? Kind of just discussing like the best play, and then the next time you come to a situation similar to that, you can do it under pressure too.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. All right. Do you guys have any other additional comments on shot calling or giving advice to teams? Like, if you had well, let's do this, right? If you the final question to closing out shot calling within episode 3. If you had to give a team advice as far as a shot calling aspect, if I just started a team today and I say, hey, what should I do about shot calling? What would your guys' advice be after all the questions and conversation we just had?
I would say the biggest thing is committing as a team of 5, honestly, because if you have 5 people shot calling, maybe one person picks the right play, but if you don't all do the right play, nobody's doing the right thing. You're just going to lose. So commit as a 5, I would say, and if you make the wrong call, that's fine. You lose as a team. You can win the next one. You can make the right call, and you can improve on that too with your game knowledge. But if you commit as a team, you'll win as a team as well. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Really well said by Admit. And then, yeah, just committing and taking that extra time. Maybe don't rush into like designated one person shot calling or something like that, but just kind of be open and take info from everybody and see what works best.
Yeah, and elaborate a little bit more off what Rufio said as far as not designating a person right off the bat. But because if you just started recruitment, you just got this support player, especially if your roster is not full, or you just got this jungler, and say, hey man, you're gonna be our designated shot caller. You don't know what that guy even like his game knowledge is or what he exactly thinks a shot caller should be called out. So definitely do the preparation and writing down what you feel like every single shot calling should be. If that is your main concern starting a team, usually it's not. Shot calling is something that you say, I'm going to recruit like-minded players that don't tilt, that's dedicated, and we will work on communication as we're going along, which will transition to shot calling. You figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are as a team and try to fix your weaknesses. So yeah, have an idea though of what everybody's responsibilities or what everybody should be shot calling out. And if you lack that knowledge, make sure if you're a bronze and silver team, I would highly recommend trying to get a coach right off the bat as soon as you guys start. And possibly gold. But when you're upper tier, I don't think a coach is necessarily necessary starting out or off the bat. You're more or less worried about your roster, and a committed coach doesn't want to don't want to commit to a team that's just now starting up, or you don't have your roster because they don't know exactly you're gonna stick around or not. So focus on getting your roster started up. Don't worry about designated shot caller. The shot calling overall is more of a later perspective. So focus on just being vocal and realize what needs to be vocalized. And then as you're going along, figure out exactly what needs to be shot called. So sometimes a new team, don't worry about shot calling so much. That's what I'm trying to get at, and that is something that's going to come in time. And later on, you'll be more specific as far as, hey, this needs to be said and this needs to be said. And it's going to take experience understanding what concepts that some individuals might struggle with, or some concepts that, like, overall as a team you guys aren't grasping as far as like warding or rotations or whatever else might be. You
Having
guys,
a coach for your team can help with that too.
yeah.
If you're lacking words or something, just overall gameplay, a coach can really help with that, which will transition into in-game shot calling as well.
You guys have anything else left for our viewers before we sign off?
Nope, I don't have anything else to add.
All right. So that do it for us, guys. This is episode 3 of Shot Calling, our Team Shuriken talk show. We do this talk show, like I said, once a week. If you guys enjoy listening to us talk, you can check us out Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern is what our practice times are. We stream our practices live, so all the embarrassing stuff we do on stream, you guys can see. So hopefully you guys learn from our good and bad. It's not just us constantly messing up and you guys are taking, okay, I definitely don't want to do what they're doing. But hopefully you guys see some good stuff we're doing, and can transition that into your games and within your team structure as well. But I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for your support. If obviously, if you haven't already followed the Twitter, follow Twitter. If this is on YouTube and you're watching it, please subscribe. We'll throw more content out as we go along. Our YouTube is still pretty new to us, and we haven't really been focused on it just yet, but we'll give it some love here, hopefully in the near future. And then also too, we have our Discord community. You guys are welcome to join our Discord. You can connect and talk to myself if you have any questions as far as team stuff, as well as all our players are listed in there. They will say TS members, so you guys are allowed to message our members, talk to them about individual lanes or what they feel about shot calling. If you like admin perspective on shot calling, you can be like, hey man, like, can you explain to me a little more in depth on what you said here or what you think here. And you got whatever you want, and then we have a community growing in there, so you guys can look for groups and meme each other or whatever else you want. It's, we're trying to grow it, and it should be a fun time, and we're a little less stricted with it, so the community grows itself pretty much.
Yeah, if you disagree with me too, come shit talk me as well. That'd be fun.
I will be sure to do that.
Give him tilted for practice, and then he comes there.
Bring it
Man,
all
you will
at me,
not
bro.
believe what this guy just said. All right. But we'll see you guys hopefully on our stream. If not, we'll see you next week on our next episode.
Have a good one, everyone.
Peace out.